First of all, I hope everyone's excited about the fall semester. I know we are ramping up in our office, and I imagine everyone else is getting prepared for courses and any of the extracurriculars and things we're still able to get involved in. Thank you all for all the work you've done on your Fulbright applications thus far. For many of you, I know we've been working together since April, March, even, and so it's it's pretty wild to see all the progress that's been made. If you haven't done this yet, maybe for fun, start thinking about going back and reading your first drafts of your essays and comparing it to your most recent drafts and seeing how much has changed. Um, and yeah, we'll just keep working together until the October deadline, and you'll just see how that evolves moving forward. So this is what we're going to go over, just some final reminders. I'm going to talk to you all about the campus deadline, how to submit, something called the student checklist. Then we're going to discuss the interview process and then polishing proposals after the interviews. And then we'll finalize with any questions that you have. Okay, so I'm going to, throughout the presentation, going to be giving everyone tips. Tip number one is a little late, but I believe it's been in almost every one of my emails. Do not wait until the deadline to begin process of completing and submitting the online application. That is something that does take a lot of time. It's not a difficult application. I think for those of you who have already gotten a good portion through, it's not hard. It's just really tedious. There's just a lot of inputting information that will take time. It consumes a lot of time. And for those of you who are doing English teaching assistance application, you've heard this from me already, but the English teaching assistant application does not ask for recommendation letters. They ask for a reference form. Here are the questions that your recommenders are asked to respond to, and your recommenders do not get access to this form until you put their information into the official Fulbright application. And so if you haven't done that, I would do that like today, maybe even during this presentation. Feel free to go on, pop them into there so that they can actually begin responding to these prompts and filling out the document that they're going to upload on your behalf. Okay, so moving forward. So again, just going through some reminders. Essay formatting is really important here. I've seen a lot of varieties over the years, and even this year, of how people do their headers. It's very explicit on the Fulbright application. So the key to remember is that the header does not go into the header section of your document, but it actually takes up the first few lines of the body of your document. Before that, I just want to point out, for a statement of grant purpose, if you were doing a application for creative or academic studies or research, it's 2 typed single page space pages in 12-point font Times New Roman and 1-inch margins. If you're doing a statement of grant purpose for an English teaching assistant, it is a single typed single space page in 12-point font Times New Roman 1-inch margin. Then back to the headers. Statement of grant purpose. Line 2 should be name of your name, the country you're applying to. Please do not put the United States. I see so many of those. And it does bring me a chuckle, but it means that I have to be like, hey, can you just go in and make this one minor edit, which ends up being a 10-minute ordeal to get it your application unsubmitted, you editing that, and then resubmitting your application. And then put your field of study. That field of study is English Teaching Assistant program if you are applying to do an ETA. If not, then it's the field of study that your master's degree that you're applying for, or the research project or creative project you're planning on doing falls under. And then line 3 only applies if you are a academic or creative applicant. Line 3 is the title of your project, whatever title you come up with. And so I have some examples here. And so the first example is for an ETA. The second example is for someone doing, in this case, a creative writing, so a creative project. For those of you who are doing study research or academic creative grants, you have a page 2. And so on that page 2, the first line of your document should read grant purpose, comma, page 2. Personal statement's a lot easier. Same formatting as far as the page itself. It's one page for everyone, single spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman, and 1-inch margins. And also for everyone, you only have 2 lines to the header. Personal statement is line 1. Line 2 is your name, the country you're applying for, and the field of study. And so for those exact same 2 examples from the previous slide, you have the personal statement examples that would pair with them. If you need to contact your regional representative, maybe in talking with myself or your advisor, you're not getting, we're unable to answer the question you have. Typically, these are the people we would recommend either you contacting or us contacting on your behalf. The first email address is wrong, I'm just realizing. If you are looking to reach out to anyone in the East Asia Pacific, it's at IIE.org rather than IEE.org. So the rest of them are accurate, and if you just modeled it after that, you'd be fine. But yeah, so these are your contacts outside of us, outside of your fellowship advisors. Okay, so now we're going to talk about deadlines. The first deadline should not come as any surprise, as I think I've written extensively about it in all of my reminder emails. Your ETA application deadline is August 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and your academic or creative grant application deadline is August 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is just to give us a little bit of a leeway in processing everything, because you'll see from our conversation, it's a pretty hands-on submission process. Okay. I always get questions about this, and so I want to be really emphatic. Yes, on the FSU deadline, the 2 right there, August 26th or August 27th, you need to click submit on the official Fulbright application. I'm gonna let that sink in. So your official Fulbright application will be submitted on August 26th or August 27th. I've gone ahead and written down a conversation I usually have with about half of our applicants. When I say all materials are due online, you may ask, do you include essays? And I would say, absolutely, I do. Recommendations, yes, those are also due online by those dates. Letters of affiliation, yep. So it goes on. Everything you were going to ask is due August 26th if you're an ETA, or August 27th if you are an academic or creative grant applicant. There is a national deadline which is different, and so I am aware of that. This is the process, and the reason why we have you all submitting August 26th or 27th is that Fulbright asks that each university do an initial review of a complete application and submit something called the Campus Committee Evaluation Form. We're going to be discussing that. And so in order for us to get your application and process your application for your reviewers, we need to get it in a complete form by August 26th or 27th. So before you click submit, just a good tip here, be sure to use spell check on Word, or I know there's that app I can't think of the name of that will sort of spell check your everything you write online as well. And so if you use something like that, you're good. You should be good to go. But definitely spell check yourself in some form, in some capacity. I am seeing a lot of people are responding with questions, and so I will definitely circle back and answer those at the end of the presentation. Okay, so campus deadline day. You can submit your application early. There's no problem with that. Like if you submit your application on August 25th, great, fantastic. We will start processing those applications at 9 a.m. on your deadline day. Again, August 26th, if you're applying for an ETA, August 27th, if you're applying for the academic or creative grants. So our goal is to, based on when it was submitted, evaluate the application for its completeness, and then reach out to the submitted applicant or the applicants and set up a time for you to do an interview. And the way we're going to be doing that is we'll be sharing a Google Doc with you with available interview slots and just asking you to pick the time that works best for you. So we are going to try to do this based on who submitted first, and so prioritizing those people. If you submit before 9 a.m. on August 26th or before 9 a.m. on August 27th, depending on your deadline, it'll probably just be like, we'll prioritize the folks who got it in before the actual deadline window. But once after that point, it's just going to be first come, first serve. If we have questions for you about, hey, this is missing, or hey, just want to let you know this is an edit you should make before I'm going to unsubmit your application. This is an edit you should make. We'll go ahead and take care of that then. If this is if it's a minor edit, we might not even tell you about. We might just be like, this is fine. We'll make a note of it and we'll tell you about it after your interview. Because one thing I haven't revealed yet in this presentation is that as fellowship advisors, so the folks who have been working with you on these applications, we are able to go into the Fulbright application system and pull your information, unsubmit your application if it's necessary, and so you will still be able to get to your application if you need to. But the purpose of this is so that we can process applications by the end of next week and send them to the people who are going to interview you based on the time slot you chose. Those interviews will happen in mid-September. Right now, they're going to be the week of September 7th and September 14th. So we're going to be creating those PDFs of your application based on what was submitted on the day it was due and sending that to your reviewers. Your reviewers, this is, by the way, this is the checklist. So this is basically what I'm going to go through every time I pull up an application. We're creating digital versions of this right now, but it'll essentially be the same information. So what's the applicant's name? What country are they applying to? Did they submit their application? Yes, check. Did they have project proposal, which is statement of grant purpose? Yes, check. Personal statement, check. Language evaluation if necessary. That's only if you have a skill set in that language or in the language of your host country, or that it's required that you do a language evaluation. So we would assess that. We'd assess whether or not it was submitted and check that off. Do we have all the recommendations? Check, check, check. Official transcript from each institution attended. That doesn't have to be official. It can be unofficial. It's pretty explicit in the application system itself what they're looking for, but they do say all degree granting institutions. So it doesn't have to be an official transcript, but you do need a transcript from each of your degree granting institutions. And then layers of affiliation. Typically there's only one, but we have a line here for people who submit more than one, which is fine. And once we've proven all of that, If there's supplemental materials, we'll make a note of that as well. That's only for people who are doing creative projects abroad. And then we'll send you that Google link to set up a time for your interview. We'll document that here. You'll write that down yourself. We'll send you a confirmation email. And then let's talk about the interviews and the interview committee. So Fulbright asks that each university do initial review of their applicants. We have this August deadline so that we can collect all of your applications and all of your materials and send it to your interview committee. Your interview committee is built of FSU faculty from various departments around the campus. Many of them are Fulbright recipients themselves, and others are just like regional experts or have long-term international experience. All of them are aware of what Fulbright stands for, what the mission of the Fulbright, and we usually try to sort of separate them by broad global regions. And so you will be reviewed by a committee of 3 to 5 professors who are typically very comfortable in the region of the world that you're applying to, and also are aware of the type of grant you're applying for. And that's only distinguishing between, an academic creative grant or a ETA. They are not going to be experts in your field. And that's true at the national level as well. Your application is supposed to be compelling across fields. So keep that in mind as you're doing final edits to your application. The only exception to that is if you're doing a creative application, if you're proposing a creative project, you do go through the educated layperson review at FSU, you go through the educated layperson review at the national level, but you also get a small cohort of people in your field, in your artistic craft, who will also take a look at your application. It sounds like someone's microphone is on, so if you don't mind just turning that off. So that's the committee. It's a panel. So you, like I said, 3 to 5 professors are going to read the application that we send to them on August 28th, the Friday after the 2 deadlines. And then they're going to sit down and interview you sometime the week of September 7th or September 14th. They have to fill out something called the Campus Committee Evaluation Form. I'll show it to you all in this PowerPoint, but you can also find a PDF of it on the Fulbright website if you'd like, Campus Committee Evaluation Form. And that's the document that's going to go with your application to the national committee after the national deadline. So you're going to sign up for the interview. I'm going to send you a Zoom link to that interview. The interviews are very brief, 20 to 25 minutes. I would say, best way to prepare, make sure you know your materials, make sure you have good lighting, a good internet connection, and try to be ready for the interview 10 minutes early, so that there's no, unfortunately there's going to be tech difficulties for some of us. That's just the way things go, but try to minimize that likeliness of it being you, or by just being prepared. I've left this note in here. I believe Career Center is still doing mock interviews. In fact, I think that they're probably going to be very valuable because they'll all be via Skype or Zoom. And so if you would like to do a mock interview, they are very aware of Fulbright. We usually have a handful of students reach out to them every August and September to get some assistance. And so I would go ahead and prepare for that. Keep in mind that they're brief. Like, I want to emphasize that because you have to really be concise in your responses. So really important to know your materials well. So on that note, tips for success. Read your essays. Be prepared to explain and expand on the information presented there. Reflect on your ability to be successful in the host country setting. Now, Fulbright is about diplomacy at its core, whether you're doing an ETA, pursuing a master's degree abroad, pursuing a research project or creative project abroad. At its core, Fulbright is really concerned with diplomacy, cross-cultural exchange. So think about like how you engage with your community. Think about how your project allows you to engage with your community. Be prepared to expand on information found in your supplemental materials, letters of affiliation, transcripts, portfolio. So anything that you've had access to. Really, the only thing that you will not have seen unless your recommender decided to share with you is the recommendation. So you should know the rest of the application pretty thoroughly. Take notes and ask questions. One thing I haven't stressed is, unless you've been meeting with me individually, is that these interviewers, we have no requirement that our university can only submit X amount of applications for it. So this is not a weeding out process. If your application is in a good place, then our committee, by and large, wants to make you look good. They want to help you because you are FSU students, and in the end, that's their, that's part of their goal as educators is to help you achieve some really incredible opportunities, and one of those could be Fulbright. And so their goal is to make you look good. Doesn't mean they won't be critical, and doesn't mean they won't ask critical questions. But if you've given them a good application to start with, then the conversation can be a very positive experience. The interview can be a very positive experience. And I've seen some interviews that really were 20 minutes of, hey, this is really good, but here are the things we think you can do better on your application. So take notes on that, take notes on the conversation, ask questions of your interviewer, have a couple of questions that are really important to you. Prepared before the interview, or have some topics that you want to cover that if it doesn't come up in the interview itself, maybe it can come up in the questions at the end. But there's usually like a minute or two for like a couple of questions. Here are some sample interview questions. These are based on what we've experienced over the past 5 years. We've already talked about this. I've emphasized it a few times already. Like, expect to be asked for a summary of the proposal. Like, where are you going? What are you doing? And have a brief response to that. Concision is really going to be your best friend in this interview process. And it's not something we're all natural at. Certainly something you probably picked up. I'm not a natural at, but definitely something to work on for this interview. Know about what's going on in your country. So, and this next question is really valuable. Is there any way you can connect current events to your project? Like, how does like, what's going on with the education system in Zimbabwe, and why would it be important for you to be an ETA there? What do you get to learn from this experience? How do these opportunities help you reach your future goals? Why did you choose this country? What challenges do you anticipate? How will you overcome them? I think those previous two questions are really questions that should be answered in your application, but you need to be able to articulate that out loud as well. And how would your Fulbright benefit both your host country and the United States? I would say that I think one thing I see a lot of is students focusing on what they'll gain from this experience, but like, try to also talk about what your host country gains from having you there as well. So I mentioned I would show you the campus community evaluation forms. Again, you can find these on Fulbright's website. So it's public information, but this is essentially the document. This is a copy of the document that your reviewers will have to fill out. It says study research grants. This is for anyone doing anything academic or creative while they're abroad. So basically everyone but an ETA applicant. So yeah, there are the questions. And again, find this on Fulbright's website, and make sure that you feel like you have a good application that like, these questions should be answered both based on your application and your interview, right? So it's not just based on one. So make sure that your application is addressing this stuff, and that you can talk about it in your interview as well. I also think that interviews are a really good opportunity to use examples that maybe you couldn't squeeze into your application. So if there's like, a story that about your motivation or for why you're choosing to do this project or choosing this country that just didn't make the cut for your application, but is still compelling, then this is the opportunity. This conversation with your interviewers is the opportunity to share that, because that's the kind of information that the reviewers of these CCE forms really like. When I went and observed a Fulbright review a few years ago, I asked what the value of this document was to them, and they said that it was here, I'm going to show the ETA one while I'm telling the story. They said that it was they found these documents most valuable when it says something that they couldn't find elsewhere in the application. So something that still supplements and supports the narrative being told in the application for what this person wants to do, who they are, but like adds to it in some way. So that is the ETA form as well. Again, both of these are on Fulbright's website, and you can just campus committee evaluation form. You should be able to find it. Okay, that's what I wanted to get across. I have a reminder here that the ETA is due August 26th at 3 p.m. and academic creative grants are due by August 27th at 3 p.m. So with that, I'm going to leave this page up and I'm going to turn to your questions. So I have a great question from one applicant saying that they wanted a distinction between English Teaching Assistant Program and ETA, used after the name of the country, which is correct. If you're referring to how to put it into your application or into your essays, I would put English Teaching Assistant Program. But everyone who looks at these will know what you mean if you say ETA at any point. They'll be well aware of what an ETA is. Can we still change recommenders? Yes. I think that there are probably a myriad of really good reasons why someone might want to do that. We certainly had interview committees recommend an applicant change the recommender because maybe the recommendation just wasn't satisfying. So there, yes, you can still change recommenders. It doesn't give them much time to make adjustments or to write a recommendation for you if this would be their first one. But it's definitely it's something that can be done. If for almost all of you, there are probably a small handful that have sent me like new recommenders in the past few days. But for almost everyone, you should have received an email from me, that you were copied to for your recommenders, giving them tips. And what I would say is if you do decide to change your recommender, or if you've added a new recommender since I sent that email out, then just forward that tips email to your recommenders, your new recommenders. Can we still put in different person to recommend? Yes. Does this mean we can't change anything? So I think I covered this, but this person was asking if because I haven't. Yeah, thank you for prompting me with this question. So you submit the application August 27th. You have your interview September 8th. After that interview, we are going to unsubmit your application back to you, so that based on your notes and based on our notes, you can make adjustments to your application before the national deadline. But the application that you are being assessed by our campus committee evaluators with is the application that you submit on the campus deadline. And that's why it's really important that they have a full application, because if they don't have a complete set of recommendations, if they're missing a letter of affiliation, then they are going to be more hesitant to be to enthusiastically endorse you. You'll probably still get a positive endorsement if you've been putting in the good effort on your application thus far. But the more complete and the higher quality the application, the more enthusiastically they can endorse you. Someone pointed out that the online app that I could not think of that will spell check what you're working on online is Grammarly. If so, I'm not going to advertise it, but I have used it in the past and it has worked. Another person was asking about letters of affiliation. If one of my letters of affiliation will come in before the final deadline, but not the school deadline, will I be able to add it later? Or will I have to add, or will I only have 2 affiliations? If so, could I use an affiliation letter from a PhD student to replace the late one? So I think I sort of just talked a little bit about this with letting you all know that we will be unsubmitting the application back to you after your campus interview so that you can make changes, and that would be an opportunity to upload your final affiliation letter. As I've already said, like there are a great deal of benefits to having it in before you're interviewed and before, so by August 26th, by August 27th. But it's not the end of the world if you don't. Did I answer? Let me see. And no, I wouldn't suggest a PhD student for a letter of affiliation. I think Fulbright might be one of the least pretentious fellowships, but I think it's still important that like the professor that you would be working with is writing the letter of affiliation rather than a PhD student. Will recommenders receive another email reminding them to submit letters by the deadline? I will not be sending out another one. You are welcome to send out another one. But I think that, and I was talking to someone about this earlier today, I think, a really good window for approaching that is to just be like, hey, it's a week before the deadline. Like, here's my updated materials. I probably won't be editing these too drastically between now and August 26th or August 27th. And it being a week before the deadline, just wanted to check in and see if you had any final questions or anything before submitting your recommendation. I think you can do that for all of your recommenders, just as a gentle, checking in. Oh, I'm sorry, someone was not able to hear. I hope, if you have questions about parts you missed, please feel free to ask those in here, but also everyone will have access to the recording of this conversation. And so hopefully, as long as the recording captured me, you should be good to go. Let's see. Do we need letters of affiliation from both our first and second choice universities? So I think this person is asking specifically about doing or probably mixing Fulbright with the Marshall Scholarship. Fulbright does not have any interest in a second choice institution. So if you're applying for a graduate school, you only need a letter of affiliation from the institution the partnership you're applying through, rather than that plus a second choice university, which is again specifically only relevant to the Marshall Scholarship. And so I hope that clarifies that for you, and not too confusing for everyone else. This is a great question, and one I'm not certain of the answer of. Are mock interviews only available in person? Apparently they are unavailable until September 14th. That's really unfortunate. Let me think about that, and in my email to you all, I will see if I can come up with an alternative to mock interviews with the Career Center. Maybe there's another way that we can help you gain that experience before our interviews, because that would only help about half of you if we waited until the 14th. Will we know our campus interviewers' professional titles, backgrounds to best prepare our questions? No, you won't, in the same way that you won't know your reviewers at the national level, and it will probably be unlikely that you would know your interviewers at the host country level. And I guess I should point out that part of the process. So you'll submit your final applications before October 13th. At that point, your application goes to the national review, which is usually 3 professors from universities around the country who are specifically experienced in the country you're applying to. I think they're all Fulbright recipients. I'm not confident in that, but I'm pretty sure that's true. They will, like I said, they will not be field specific. So while they're very comfortable with the country you're applying to, they will be from a variety of different fields, and it's not guaranteed that they'll have any connection to what your area of interest is. They'll review your application, and if they recommend it, you would be considered a semi-finalist. This information will come out in January, February of 2021. If you're a semi-finalist, so that means that they've recommended your application to be sent from the United States to your host country for a final review. At that point, you're looking at a 1 in 3 shot of receiving it. They usually send about 2/3 as many applications as what the country is looking for to award. And so, yeah, about a 1 in 3 shot if you are considered a semi-finalist. Your application goes to the host country, again, not field specific, and they review your application to make final decisions. The one exception again is that if you are applying for a Fulbright to do something creative, your application would go from the layperson national review, and by layperson I just mean like maybe not in your area of study. They'll go from those folks to a committee who is specifically focused on your craft, and then it would go to the host country if you're a semi-finalist. Will we have any direct contact correspondence with the national reviewers? No. What do we do if our affiliation letter fell through, just since it might take time to try to get a new one? Yeah, I am so sympathetic to that. That sucks. I think that more than any other part of the application, the letter of affiliation has the potential to be the most difficult part to wrangle, because in many cases, a lot of applicants have zero connection to this person prior to reaching out and saying, hey, you don't know me, here's what I'm about in 150 words, and would you be willing to support me in coming to your school and doing this project or enrolling for a year? And would you be able to put that in writing? Like that's so tough, and so that really sucks if they've fallen through. And what I'd say is, don't be afraid to bring that up to your interview committee. They will certainly, almost certainly, bring it up to you. Let them know what happened, and tell them what you're doing to get a new one, and aim for October 13th. Like, if you can just have one before you submit, that's better than not having one at all. So don't submit the national application, just the FSU one, correct? No. At this point, I am only talking about the national application. There's no more internal documents that you're doing. I need everyone by August 26th if you're an ETA, or August 27th if you're a study research grant or academic creative project applicant. I need everyone to submit the official national Fulbright application. Will our letter writers have to resubmit their letters after the application is unsubmitted? No, that's a great question. No, the letters will stay in the system. If my language evaluator fell through, what is the best way to go about finding a new one? Great question. If your Language is taught at FSU. Hopefully it's taught by more than one professor. And I would say just reach out to the Modern Languages Department. And you can cycle through the faculty based on the language of study. And so I'd say that would be your next step. If you are applying to a country with a language that is not taught at FSU, then looking at other universities and seeing if someone else would be willing to do, like, Fulbright prioritizes uh, professors of that language for these reviews. So that's what I would say is, like, look for a professor. It doesn't have to be at FSU. Look for a professor of that language. If it's a really uh, uncommon language to teach at a university level, then their next preference is a college educated native speaker. So if you can find someone who is a native speaker of that language, who at least has a bachelor's degree, maybe I've had folks go through and get like PhD candidates um, who are here at FSU, but are from the country that this applicant wants to apply for. I've had students go that way, or that route with it. So priority or first preference, professor of that language. Second preference, college educated native speaker. When submitting an ETA application, how can you add a recommender? Do you put in under the letter of recommendation type, even though they have to submit a short answer questions? Yeah, so in the application, if you're doing an ETA application, you're going to come to the same recommendation page that a person doing a study research grant or a career project would come to. And so in the same way, it's going to ask you for the recommender's name, an email address, and I believe also asks for title. And then once you put that information in, it should generate an email to that recommender saying, hey, this applicant has just added you as a recommender for their Fulbright application. Here is a link to the digital document that you would fill out and to support this applicant. Is the language evaluation form available to applicants? Yes, it is. Yes, the language evaluation form is available to applicants. If you look up language evaluation form on the Fulbright website, you'll probably come to a page that says for language evaluators I think is the title. And then you'll get a description of what those folks will be asked to do. And then there will be a PDF to a sample of the language evaluation form. Essentially, they give you a description of what Fulbright considers advanced levels, what they consider intermediate levels, and what they consider novice levels. And then just says, it's like a box, and it's like, so on one side it's advanced, intermediate, novice, and then on the top it says reading, listening, speaking, writing. And they basically just go in and check, does this person fall as intermediate on reading? Do they fall at advanced on writing, etc.? And then there's a little space for them to write a summary. Just to confirm, ETA applications do not require a letter of affiliation. That is correct. Yes, letter of affiliations only apply to people proposing to go abroad to study, to go abroad to do research, or to go abroad to do a creative project. Well, that's all the questions I have here. Does anyone have any final questions they want to type in? I'll wait a moment just to make sure, especially if you're writing a long one. I hope everyone's feeling good about the deadline. I think that this year has been pretty wild, but it's been really impressive how much effort everyone's been putting into these applications, and sort of moving forward in with the assumption that the world will be in a better place in a year from now, which I think is a good attitude. So yeah, well, I'm just getting thank yous, which is very nice and completely unnecessary. Uh, but I really enjoy working with everyone on Fulbright. It's one of my favorite awards. Um, and so it's really exciting to do this every year, and I hope that you feel as though you've been supported through this process, even though it's been distant. And really, this year we've had such a high interest in Fulbright that we've really had to work extra hard to try to incorporate everyone as best as possible. So this is, which is exciting. It's exciting to be able to say, hey, FSU, this is something our students care about and something that they're really enthusiastic about. So thank you all for your enthusiasm. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to this presentation. And I hope you all have, oh, I got a question. I'll just say for those of you who want to, like, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great first start of the fall semester for those of you who are still students at FSU. Otherwise, take good care. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I will respond to this question for an arts applicant. How can I learn more about the process of evaluating my supplemental materials arts portfolio? That's a great question, and something that I think Fulbright has uh, been intentionally opaque about to advisors, but I would say those contacts at the front of this application or at the front of this PowerPoint for, I'll see if I can circle back through, for regional advisors for Fulbright. Let's see, here they are. So program contacts would probably be your best start, is just reaching out to the region and saying, hey, I'm aware that like the application is reviewed at the national level by a committee of professors, and then also at the national level by a committee of professors specifically in my field before going to the host country. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that middle review process. If the country's research application asks for no prior contact with a host university unless necessary, should we assume it's necessary and reach out to a host country anyway? No, I would say that if that's emphasized, there are general rules on Fulbright's website. There are things that we can count on being true pretty much across the board, but there's always going to be exception, and so I would always defer to the host country page with questions about like, should I do this or not? And so if the host country page has been emphatic about not contacting, that I'm guessing that's within the context of like, this country is saying, hey, we don't require letters of affiliation. We don't want you, we don't even want you to, even though, because in many cases, those of you applying to the UK will back me up on this. We fellowship advisors still encourage folks to contact the host country for a letter of affiliation, even if it's not required, because in our experience, the students who have those letters of affiliation are still preferred over students who do not, or applicants who do not, even if it's not a required document. Still something that would help your application. But in the case of countries telling you don't you dare, then I would just listen to them and not reach out. Okay, cool. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I hope you all have a good rest of your day and a good week at the start of fall semester. So take care, everyone.